And absent being able to get anything swiftly through Congress on an issue as contentious as that, no surprise at all that Biden will use the power he has as president, what he can do in the framework of an executive order, to deal with timelines and regulations. As he said in that grab you played, Tom, not changing the law, but using the power given to him in the executive branch of government to change things like timelines. And the enrollment period is key in the American system. Every 12 months, you get to renew your choice of health insurance. And there's a window in which that's prescribed. And obviously, the shorter you make that window, the fewer people have an opportunity to avail themselves of it. Making that window longer helps bring more people into it and adds to the viability of Obamacare.
Yeah, these executive orders, basically, something gets hobbled, and then you remove the hobble, for want of a better word, and that's what Joe Biden does around these campaigns. We heard so much around the Georgia reruns, and wow, the Democrats have effective control of the Senate. So why is this not being used very often yet?
The US Senate has the supermajority requirement, remember, for many, many votes, not all, but many, many votes in the US Senate. You require 60 votes. To bring debate to a close, the so-called filibuster provision that governs a lot of procedure in the United States Senate. So a 50-50 Senate is great on final passage with the tie-breaking vote from the Democratic vice president, but you've got to get there. And so it's that calling debate to a close requires a 60 vote supermajority on a lot of things. And the other thing, Tom, is that 50 votes is a little wobbly. Right, you've got a few senators there, particularly Joe Manchin from West Virginia, a fossil fuel coal-rich state that is a 60-40 Trump state, where you've got nonetheless a fairly conservative Democrat voting with Republicans on a lot of issues. When you get to something like climate change, there's no way, right? He is not a secure vote at all. And so just because you've got 50 Democrats doesn't mean you've always got 50 votes. Party line voting has really tightened up in the American system as the system's become more polarized, but it is by no means a sure thing that every vote is going to see all of your members voting with you.
Yeah, so you sort of pick the things you think you can change, I suppose. And just on the supermajorities, right. I mean, recall over the years we've had these votes over various issues. The filibusters go on and one person will stand up for 8 hours. Are we talking about just because it will, take so much time, and if you go down that path, Republicans can delay it forever? Do these things have a natural sort of deadline? How does that work if they're sort of testing both sides on that and the Democrats want to wait it out? That
itself is part of the game. How hard do you want to push the other side to actually do a good old-fashioned filibuster? They've changed the rules. The myth of it from TV dramas where we see people reading the phone book and taking shifts to read the phone book into congressional record for days at a time. It doesn't really proceed that way anymore. And I think once people realise that they haven't got the 60 votes to bring debate to a close, they just sort of table the issue and realise it's not going to get done. They've never really forced the filibuster hard for a long time. But the thing to remember, Tom, is that I noted the exception. The exception is if it's a budget bill, and then there's tremendous scope and discretion as to what counts as a budget bill. There's this process called reconciliation, and that's how the Trump tax cuts got passed back in 2017. Republicans didn't have 60 votes for that. And so the way they did it, though, is to say, well, this is part of the budget process, and we only need a simple majority for that. And I suspect...
Which means it can go back the other way, right, on the same legislation?
You only need 50 votes, right? So when Republicans control the chamber under Mitch McConnell, and now it's the Democrats' turn under Schumer. So, for instance, that's how COVID relief, I suspect, is going to get done, Tom. It's a bill that they don't want to reopen up to negotiation. It took them a long time to get to an in-principle agreement. I think they're going to say, hey, this is a budget bill. We're going to take the House version. We're going to take the Senate version that have both been passed by supermajorities. A committee will resolve the differences, and it comes back for a straight up or down majority vote. They are not going to let the COVID bill, get done to death by the filibuster requirement. Obamacare, though, I think that's a harder ask, and you may even start to see you could lose some Democrat votes on that one.
All right, interesting. So that could be, I suppose, as you mentioned there, the COVID bill and maybe the company tax cut, but that might be a fight down the path. I wanted to ask you this. Joe Biden talking about unity and healing the country. Is it a mistake to have the impeachment pursued? Does he, in a real world, a real politics sense, have authority to say, lay down your arms for now?
No, he doesn't at this point. What he has got, though, is, I think, a reasonable amount of power with respect to Democratic Senate as to how long the trial goes. The Senate itself governs the proceedings of the trial now that they're constitutionally required to have in the Senate. What's happened, Tom, is that COVID relief is held up. And although we've got a national security team through Senate confirmation now, the next level down, the deputy secretaries, a lot of the worker bees that are themselves political appointments in the American system, they are backed up now behind impeachment. And no one, certainly Joe Biden, does not want that. He wants these appointments in. He's got important business to attend to, COVID being chief among it. And so they're going ahead with this trial. I think it's going to be very brief, 4 or 5 work days of the Senate, perhaps even only half days each of those days, and as soon as next week.
I bet you it won't feel brief. Just finally and briefly, the Trump defence being invoked by some of these people that stormed the Capitol, essentially that, oh, he conned me, you know, he misled me. Is this a sign his supporters might feel deceived en masse, or is that naive? This is just anything that'll get you out of punishment in court?
I think it's just words. I think it's just words for people that are caught in the headlights, probably regretting doing what they did, or at least being so sort of naive about putting it all over social media. I'm not quite sure what weight it will carry in an impeachment trial. You know, you can imagine the House managers bringing the case for impeachment and conviction, saying, look, all these supporters of Donald Trump are saying they felt incited by him. Ergo, doesn't that help make the case? But the key development there was Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy going down to Florida to mend bridges, to mend fences with Donald Trump, patch up that relationship, a sign from the leading Republican in the House of Representatives of how important a figure and how important it is to stay in the good graces of former President Donald Trump. A sign that people are trying to figure out, and I suspect Donald Trump himself is trying to figure out, how much power do I have? What do I want to do with it? What battles do I fight? What ones don't I? The chief one, though, is, of course, in the impeachment trial. And interestingly, Tom, last observation on impeachment, do they not convict, the 2/3 vote of the Senate you need for a conviction, but do they come back with a majority resolution saying that Donald Trump is henceforth declared ineligible ever to hold federal office again?
Yeah.
That one, I think, keep an eye on that one. As impeachment is a bridge too far, do they go for that instead?